Liverpool, the reigning champions, whose dream of retaining the Premier League title is hanging by a thread. Now, one of the reasons that it has gone so wrong for Liverpool this season is that the new signings have simply not landed. Ekitike, Wirtz, Frimpong, Isak, Kerkez have all failed to adjust to life at Anfield. Florian Wirtz has come in for major aggressive criticism. Hugo Ekitike started brilliantly, but hasn't scored a goal for a month. Alexander Isak cannot keep fit. Kerkez looks totally out of his depth. Frimpong, who knows? Everybody has had their say on this. Whether it's former pros, current pros, legends of the game, everybody believes that they know the recipe that Arne Slot should be employing. Arsene Wenger, the great Arsene Wenger, claimed just last week that the deployment of Florian Wirtz in Liverpool's midfield had destroyed, that's a quote, he had destroyed Liverpool's midfield. Wenger believes that Arne Slot has been forced to move Florian Wirtz out of the midfield to try and somehow salvage results. Whereas the Germany manager Julian Nagelsmann has been far more sympathetic to the plight of Florian Wirtz. He has basically blamed everyone else. He has blamed the Liverpool strikers. Anybody who plays in an advanced position for Liverpool is in the firing line for Julian Nagelsmann. Nagelsmann truly believes that Florian Wirtz is doing his job, and it's down to the other players at Liverpool to elevate their standards. Now, whatever you think, and I honestly do not know what I think here, but whatever you think, what cannot be debated is that Liverpool's form has nosedived since these transfers were made. Like, these transfers were made. £500 million was spent in order to immediately improve Liverpool, take them from the champions to a legacy team. And that really hasn't happened. 7 defeats out of the last 10 games is by anybody's standards a crisis. But why? It's a fascinating question. Why has this happened? Why are Liverpool struggling in the way that they are? Why are excellent footballers such as Alexander Isak and Hugo Ekitike and Florian Wirtz struggling to find rhythm and form at Liverpool? And almost more importantly than why, will they rediscover it? Will these signings ultimately work? Will they find their rhythm again? It's a conundrum that we are going to delve deep into now. But before we do, may I just ask you a huge favour? Would you please click subscribe? I would love to welcome you into this community. I really appreciate you watching. If you are enjoying the video, please do click subscribe. Thank you so much. Right, let's get into it then. Florian Wirtz. £116 million Florian Wirtz. Yet to register a goal. Yet to register an assist in the Premier League. You know, he's looked more promising, I guess, in the Champions League. He's done okay in the Champions League. He looked decent against Real Madrid. But ultimately, the Florian Wirtz transfer has been a disaster. It really isn't working. It's causing Liverpool problems. There is headline after headline. And Florian Wirtz is the poster boy of this new Liverpool era. Now, why is it going so wrong? I was listening to the commentary against Manchester City the other day, and Gary Neville, whose commentary I love, spoke about this. He referred to Florian Wirtz as looking like a little boy. Now, calling someone a little boy, it feels like a bit of a mug off, but I genuinely don't think it is. I think that is exactly what Gary Neville thought. I thought he looked like a little lost boy. He looks diminutive. He looks young. He looks like he is out of his depth. And Gary Neville isn't the first pundit to question the physicality, the physical properties of Florian Wirtz. You know, I remember listening to Micah Richards earlier this year, and he kept describing him as petite. And interestingly, and maybe most revealingly, Joe Cole, a player who was diminutive himself, a player who wasn't naturally blessed with great athleticism, but went on to be a world-class Premier League icon. Joe Cole is a king at Stamford Bridge, and Joe Cole's mould isn't dissimilar to that of Florian Wirtz. Even Joe Cole said he looked lightweight. So is it that simple? Have we stumbled upon the answer? Why does Florian Wirtz not work in this Liverpool midfield? He's too small. That to me just feels so basic. It feels so basic, it feels unintelligent, it feels maybe part of the reason, maybe it's a percentage of the answer, but it is undoubtedly not the overall answer. Now, I can cast my mind back to when I was fairly young, and I remember watching a player like Luka Modric in an era when Premier League midfielders were all huge, they were all of stature, they were all physical specimens. Suddenly everything changed. There was the arrival of Luka Modric into the league, and do you know who else deserves credit here? David Silva. 2 players landed in the league and totally changed everyone's thinking. Suddenly, we went from total physical dominance. Michael Ballack, Michael Essien, John Obi Mikel, Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard. We went from that kind of mould to having players like Luka Modric, totally dictating the tempo, totally dictating the play, totally dominating exactly what both their side and the opposition were thinking. David Silva, easy, made the game look easy. It didn't matter how much more physical you were. It didn't matter how much stronger you were. You couldn't get near David Silva. And the examples are countless. Joe Cole, Juan Mata, Santi Cazorla. The list goes on and on and on. In an era when the Premier League was even more physical, smaller players and Florian Wirtz were dictating games in this league. So I do not believe that the physicality of Wirtz is the answer. It's a problem, but it isn't the only answer. You know, the Premier League is undoubtedly the most physical league in the world. It's the most physically demanding league in the world. It's the least forgiving league in the world. And Florian Wirtz needs to elevate his stature, elevate his stance. He cannot be bullied. And there was a moment in his first game, do you know, I remember watching it with the boys. It was against Bournemouth, when Antoine Semenyo just launched him. Do you remember that moment? Semenyo just launched Florian Wirtz. And at that, you kind of go, you might have to start doing a few squats. But there is no way that the physicality can be the only thing holding Florian Wirtz back in this league. But for it to go right for Wirtz, he will have to elevate his physical property, elevate his physicality, be stronger, be more robust, be more aggressive. He will have to bring that side into his game because he is now playing in a far more physically dominant league. Now, I saw some stats around this, and a couple of them I found very shocking. Like Florian Wirtz wins about 1 in 10 headers in this league. In Germany, it was 2.5 in 10. So he's gone from winning 2.5 out of every 10 to 1 in 10. Equally, the power of the duel. You know, Mikel Arteta, a brilliant manager, a great footballing mind, will always talk about the importance of your individual duel. Pep Guardiola will always talk about the importance of your individual duel. And Florian Wirtz isn't winning enough. When it comes down to the duel against whoever's trying to stop him, he's only winning about 35% of those duels. In Germany, he was winning closer to 50. So he's going to have to be bigger, be stronger, be more dominant, get more involved. Like, he's not on the ball enough. You know, 80 touches in Germany, 58 touches in England. He's going to have to take the game by the scruff of the neck himself. But I'm sure that will come. This isn't a talent issue. But I really am sympathetic to Wirtz. I think a lot of the problems that he's facing revolve around the system that is being employed by Arne Slot. Florian Wirtz wants the ball in the areas of the pitch that he excelled last season. He wants the ball in threatening areas. He doesn't want to be picking the ball up out wide, really. He doesn't want to be picking the ball up in his own half, really, or too deep. He needs to be at his effective best. And that is both a system issue and a personnel issue. You know, apparently one of the reasons why Florian Wirtz was so desperate to sign for Liverpool over a side like Bayern Munich is because he was going to play as a number 10. Now, if you aren't going to play him in his preferred position, maybe you can get away with playing him as an inside forward on the left. But Florian Wirtz isn't a winger. You're never going to coax the performances that you want out of Wirtz if you're sticking him actually on the wing. I know a lot of people will be saying that Wirtz did really well against Real Madrid, coming in off that left, and maybe that could be the answer. But for me, it doesn't really work. It won't work in the Premier League. I think that they need to work out a way of getting Florian Wirtz on the ball as a number 10 and linking up with Alexander Isak. That is where he will shine. Tell you what else we need to talk about, though. Julian Nagelsmann's suggestion that it's everyone else's fault. Now, generally, I don't adopt this viewpoint. Generally, I think when a footballer is having a bad time of it, that footballer needs to take responsibility. When a manager is having a bad time of it, that manager needs to take responsibility. Far too many people in this world are shirking their own responsibility. But in this exact example, is Julian Nagelsmann onto something? Nagelsmann has basically said that the rest of his teammates are rubbish and letting him down. Now, is there any truth in that? I think there is. Think about the chances that Wirtz has created. It's so easy, isn't it, to do that? I know it's gone beyond it now, but you know when they were making Florian Wirtz, James Bond, that 007 nonsense, right? It's so easy to do that. No goals, no assists. What a rubbish player. You're like, hang on a minute. This geezer definitely produced the assist of the year. It just didn't become an assist because Mohamed Salah made a pig's ear of the chance. Mohamed Salah would undoubtedly almost always score. Think about the ruthlessness with which Mohamed Salah operates. One of the greatest finishers the Premier League has ever seen. An outrageous goal tally. One of Liverpool's greatest ever players. Sitting so high on that Liverpool goal-scoring chart. Ahead of Robbie Fowler. Ahead of Kenny Dalglish. Ahead of Billy Liddell. And yet still, Mohamed Salah missed. How can that be Wirtz's fault? How can that be Wirtz's fault? That assist, that pirouette assist at Stamford Bridge that could have changed the game on its head. was missed by Salah. We cannot possibly hold it against Wirtz or talk about Wirtz's lack of assists when his teammates are so profligate in front of goal. Look, I don't like stats. I think stats are generally for Burks. I really do. And I think that anybody that bases their life on stats doesn't really understand football, doesn't understand the soul of football, doesn't understand the passion of football, doesn't understand the point of football. However, there is often a place where we can learn something about the game via stats. And I saw something that shocked me. Florian Wirtz is one of the most creative players in the league. Florian Wirtz has created 16 top-tier attempts for teammates. 16. He's one of the most creative players in the league. It's just everyone else is woeful in front of goal. Only 7 players in the Premier League this season have created chances at a faster rate than Florian Wirtz this season. If you create 16 chances and not one of them are put away, maybe we need to be talking about the teammates here. This isn't Wirtz's fault. I mean, the one that you always think of is that outrageous pirouette at Stamford Bridge. But there are loads. I remember him creating a great chance for Conor Bradley at Galatasaray. There was a great chance for Dominic Szoboszlai against Real Madrid. There was someone else at Galatasaray as well, wasn't there? Ultimately, Liverpool lost that game. He didn't get an assist. He created a great chance for Bradley, and there was also one for someone else. It was Alexander Isak. If Isak scores that, everything could be different now. And when you think about the rate at which he creates chances, the brilliance that he demonstrates when he creates chances, I have seen enough in glimpses to suggest that Florian Wirtz is going to be an excellent player for Liverpool and will justify the huge price tag. I guess the question for Liverpool is, how long will it take for Florian Wirtz to shine? And can they be patient enough? Like, how many points are they going to drop before they find a rhythm that allows Florian Wirtz to shine? My take on it, though, my opinion, it's worth a pie crust, but I honestly believe that Florian Wirtz will shine. I really believe that he will be a top player for Liverpool. The other signings, though, I think there's more jeopardy around them. Kirkes, for example. I liked Kirkes at Bournemouth, both the season before he signed for Liverpool and the season before that. He was a standout performer, clearly Premier League proven. It's difficult to go into a team like Liverpool. It's difficult to elevate your standards. You know, the expectation, the eyeballs on you at Bournemouth is completely incomparable to what's going on at Anfield. You've got lots of examples of defenders struggling, left-backs. I mean, Cucurella at Chelsea. When we signed him, he looked totally lost. And now he's probably the best left-back in the league. So Kirkes will find it, I believe. He will find his feet. He's only 22 years old. But at the moment, they just need to do the basics well. They need to stick with Andy Robertson. Andy Robertson is undoubtedly Liverpool's best left-back of the Premier League era. One of the best left-backs to have ever played in the Premier League. Miles better than John Arnorisa or whoever else would have played for Liverpool in that position in a bygone era. Stick with Robertson. Let Kirkes adapt. And ultimately, in a year's time, you will have a top-class player. Alexander Isak. I mean, there's just nothing to say here, is there? People that are writing off Alexander Isak are incredibly foolish. He is an excellent player, an elite-level centre-forward. The variety of goals that he can score, it's just a matter of time. It's fitness. Once he finds fitness, once he is in the starting lineup for a long time, once he gets an understanding with Wirtz and Salah and Ekitike and whoever else, there is absolutely no jeopardy around how many goals Alexander Isak will score in front of that cop. He is a guarantee. Jeremy Frimpong. This is tougher. Now, I generally think these Liverpool players are going to do really well. I really do. And I think Slot will get it right. Frimpong feels different. It feels slightly different. He's such an attacking fullback. He is so obsessed with going forward. He wants to maraud. He wants to attack. He wants to get to the byline, which is all well and good. But if you have a player like Mohamed Salah in front of you who also wants to do the same thing and doesn't really show too much interest in tracking back, you are leaving yourself wide open. And they no longer have a Jordan Henderson or a Fabinho to come and rescue that side if the fullback and the winger get a little bit too cavalier. But I guess we have a question about how much longer Mohamed Salah will be there. He's an icon. He's a brilliant player. But he cannot go on forever. Maybe it was a signing for the post-Salah era. And then Hugo Ekitike. I mean, arguably, Hugo Ekitike has already worked. He burst onto the scene. He's an excellent player, great eye for a goal, has the right arrogance to lead the line for Liverpool, and it felt like it was all moving in the right direction. I think this could be one of the occasions, rare occasions, where we could give Arne Slot a little bit of stick. It felt like Arne Slot curbed his development, calmed him down, took him out of the firing line, which was a rational decision on some level, but ultimately Ekitike was doing so well for Liverpool. Taking him out of the team didn't really make any sense. You know, taking him out, trying to force Isak into the starting lineup, perhaps prematurely, it didn't feel necessary. But Ekitike is a superstar. Yeah, he hasn't scored a goal for a month, but he's a young kid who's an international for France, who is going to shine for Liverpool, no doubt. I think the key here is that you simply do not write off any of these players. You know, the season is really, in terms of this context, brand new. Florian Wirtz has lived in this country for how long? Been speaking this language for how long? You know, been playing football with these players for how long? Has been to Anfield how many times? Like, we must demonstrate an element of patience. Liverpool did have a good summer. It hasn't worked out so far, but you cannot sign 5 players as brilliant as these 5 players are and it go wrong forever. They will come good. Slot will get it right. He will sprinkle his version of stardust on this squad. Whether it happens in time for them to launch a serious and sustained bid to recapture their Premier League title, that I don't know. But they're just my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Do you think that Liverpool had a good transfer window still? Do you feel like the players that have been brought into Liverpool will ultimately do the job that Liverpool fans are dreaming they will do? Do you think that Liverpool can still win silverware this year? Even maybe a European run? Because on their day, as they proved against Real Madrid, on their day they can beat anyone. So far this year, they've beaten Real Madrid and Arsenal already. Maybe they don't have the consistency to retain a Premier League. But could they do something special in Europe? Let me know your thoughts. As always, if you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. Please give it some hype points. Whatever they do, I would like it. And if you would be really, really kind and click subscribe, I would be over the moon. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And I'll see you in a bit. Ta-da.